Hey guys, I'm John Degregory, the Director Sportif of Vino, and the man behind the camera is Jay Howard, our Assistant Director Sportif. We have a brand new social media blog that we're calling the White Road Chronicles, and what better preview than to kick off and encapsulate an epic White Roads bicycle trip that Gary Erickson, Clif Bar and Clif Family Winery founder, myself, and Jay Thomas, one of Gary's best friends, also an epic bicycle trekker in Europe, and another gentleman locally, Jim Gamble, were lucky enough to take this last fall. We went for 11 days to Italy, Slovenia, and Austria, and we cycled for 11 amazing days. We racked up about 755 miles. We did over 91,000 feet of climbing. Certainly not a vacation in the traditional sense, but what we were able to do along the way is get a portfolio of about 2,000 photos and some helmet cam video. But what we've done at Velo Vino, and a really motivational ploy perhaps to get you up here to visit if you haven't been here, or perhaps to get you back if you've already been here, is we have a couple of bulletin boards in Velo Vino that we have essentially set up to encapsulate the trip. So I just wanted to go through a couple of photos that we consider to be the highlights of the trip. This first photo here is on the first day of the adventure. We flew into Venice. 3.5 hours later, we're on what I call the Tour de Jet Lag. And this is Gary and Jay, the two Europe icons, pedaling up the Cime Grappa. And interestingly enough, the Cime Grappa has a very, very rich World War I history. This was the final stronghold for the Italians. If they had lost this mountain, it's conceivable that Italy would have fallen into the German and Austrian occupation, and that could have changed the whole history of Italy. A group photo at the top of the Cime Grappa. This is a great picture. This barrel with the bicycle was actually the idea behind our Velo Vino sign out on Highway 29. So it was neat to go back there and see that. Moving right along, you can see that we ate copious amounts of food. This is an example of one of the morning buffets that we were treated to throughout our journey. I think the critical challenge was getting enough calories in the body. That's Jim enjoying what became known on the trip as liquid Advil. We certainly had a number of pints amongst the group over this 11-day period. In fact, we estimated that amongst the four of us, we downed about 100 pints of beer over 11 days. And as you can see here, this is one of the rare moments post-ride where we were able to enjoy that without the stress of having to get back on the bike. Moving forward, this is a true White Roads picture. This is called the Unknown Pass. We're still in Italy, but we don't know quite what this pass is. Of course, it's not paved, and that's really the essence of what we call White Road travel, so a rare moment to pose for that. One of the epic photos of the trip, this is around day 4 or day 5. This was on the summit of the Passo João, one of the epic Giro d'Italia passes, essentially. We stayed at this little refugio here, and this was the morning of our next day of riding. There was an old vintage car show coming up the mountain, and so we were getting ready to go down and saw a lot of really incredible vintage cars that were driving up to the summit from a little town called Cortina. Moving right along, this is yours truly, modeling there on the Passo João. Gary wanted to get some photos. You can see a microscopic Velo Vino label on my chest there. Interestingly enough, I want to lend credence to these two photos here. I think it's extremely important to understand how people travel. Jimmy and I did have to bunk, and we do travel more on the neater side. Not so much to be said for Jay and Gary. I think the picture says it all. And then I would have to say probably the most epic photo on the entire trip. The group, this was our 4th pass of the day. We didn't know what to expect. And we were greeted to what arguably is the hardest alpine climb in Europe. It's called the Monte Zolcolon. It is a 9-kilometer climb that averages close to 16% grade, and there are 2 spots on the route that are 20 and 22% grade. So you can imagine it was a sufferfest getting to the top of that, let alone having 3 passes under our belts prior. And then as we move along, these you can see the amazing Roman cobblestones of the Passo Vercige as we make our way to the end of the trip in Austria. The gun show here as we're running out of energy. And then really, this bakery here was one of many that we saw along the way, and you can imagine we certainly partook in a lot of the delectables at those bakeries. But suffice to say, we had a wonderful trip, and certainly celebrated the essence of our winery, the essence of Clif Bar, and what we believe in as far as living life and living it passionately. So hopefully you enjoyed it. We'll come back to you soon with another White Road Chronicle.